Today's video, as you can tell by the title, is going to be recommending books to the characters in the Buffy universe. So the way this video is going to work is each character is going to get 2 books. I will tell you a summary of the character, and then I will tell you the recommendations, and majority of them are purely on vibes.
So, the Slayer.
Yeah, that's me.
If you guys haven't watched the show, Buffy is the main character, and she's the Slayer, which basically means she is the chosen one. Unlike the previous Slayers, Buffy, one, dies multiple times and comes back. Also, she doesn't let the fact that she's a Slayer take over her life. So the other Slayers, basically their whole life was being a Slayer, whereas Buffy has her being a Slayer and then her normal life. Yeah, with friends and family. The first book I'm going to recommend is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. So A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I recommend the whole series, but specifically the first one. So the book follows Pippa. Well, her whole name is Pippa Fitz-or-Maybe, but everyone just calls her Pip. And she has to choose something to do for her final project on her course. And she chooses to do the case of Andy Bell, which is a cold case that happened, I think, a few years back, where a teenager called Andy Bell was found murdered by her boyfriend. However, as Pip begins investigating the case, she realises that 1, she wasn't killed by her boyfriend, 2, it's a lot more complicated than it seems. The second book I recommend, Buffy, is a series. I haven't read this one, which is the Shadow and Bone trilogy, or just the whole universe. So the Shadow and Bone, is it trilogy? Yes. Trilogy follows a girl called Alina Starkov, who discovers she is a Grisha, which is just a person with powers, and has some summoning powers, and she's an extremely powerful one. And she has used those powers to save her best friend and potential love interest, Mal. And while doing so, she becomes the target of curiosity and violence.
And I think I'm kind of gay.
The second person is my favourite, which is Willow. So yeah, out of all 4 characters in Buffy that are part of the inner circle of the Scrubby gang, so that's Willow, Buffy, Giles and Xander. But yeah, Willow is the most shy, and I would argue the most powerful after Buffy, since, you know, she's a witch. So for first book I recommend Willow is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. Just the whole series. So Heartstopper follows Charlie Spring and Nick Nelson, mainly Charlie, as the 2 become friends due to the fact that they were put in the same form tutor, or at least I think Charlie was put into Nick's tutor or whatever. So they become friends, and then they get to know each other, and then they start dating. And with that, so Charlie's openly gay, whereas Nick, as far as he knew, is straight. But then he started liking Charlie, and then he obviously questioned his sexuality, and then he came out as bi. So the show discusses bullying, homophobia, and questioning your sexuality. However, saying that, as happy as the series is, there are a few trigger warnings that you should be aware of. So if bullying's bullying, trigger warning, homophobia, and it also discusses eating disorders, mainly because Charlie Spring, has an eating disorder, which for show, if you've seen the show on Netflix, it doesn't actually mention, but there's a few, if you've read the graphic novels like I have, you will notice. Right, for next recommendation, I know it's by a not nice person, well, transphobic author, but I recommend Willow for Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. And if you guys haven't heard of these books or films, but Harry Potter follows Harry. When he turns 11, he discovers he's not an ordinary boy and is actually a wizard. So he goes to Hogwarts, and then the series just follows him as he grows up, going to Hogwarts, and like the people he meets, and follows him as he grows up into the person he was meant to be. So the last recommendation for Willow is actually Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I haven't read this one, so this recommendation is purely based on what I've heard about it. So I've got my laptop, so I'm just going to read it. A world divided, a queendom without an heir. An ancient enemy awakens. The house of Brerenet has lined Innis for 1,000 years. Still unwed, Queen Sabran IX must conceive a daughter to protect her realm from destruction. But assassins are getting closer to her door. E. Duran is an outsider at court. Though she has risen to the position of lady-in-waiting, she is loyal to a hidden society of mages. Ede keeps a watchful eye on Sabran, secretly protecting her with forbidden magic. Across the dark sea, Tane has trained to be a dragon rider since she was a child, but is forced to make a choice that could see her life unravel. Meanwhile, the divided East and West refuse to parley, and forces of chaos are rising from their sleeves. Moving on to Willow's best friend.
Two guys wrestling, but not in a gay way.
Moving on to Sander. And also, to be honest, out of all of them, I feel like Sander would never read a book in his life, and if he would, it's the one with pictures in it. So because of that, I'm only going to be recommending him manga, but to be honest, I don't actually think Sander would read full stop. However, with Sander, he's the only person in the Scooby Gang who does not have powers in one way or another. He's also the sarcastic friend, who typically, his most funniest comments are made at the wrong time. He also has a huge hatred for Spike, as anyone would, but like, it's Spike. Anyway, so the first book I would recommend Sander is Baron for Cat Returns by Aoi Hiragi, I don't know. So aka for Cat Returns, which is the book adaptation of Studio Ghibli's The Cat Returns, which follows Haru as she's walking to school and then sees a cat walking in through her carrying a box, and the cat is about to be run over. So without thinking, Haru uses her lacrosse stick to rescue the cat, and then she finds out the cat she rescues is actually the prince of cats. Yes, I know I'm saying cat a lot. And then she meets the cat king, and then chaos ensues. Basically chaos starts, and she gets taken to the cat kingdom. And if she doesn't get home in time, she will be stuck as a cat forever. The last and final book I recommend Sander is actually Links by Natsuki Kizu. So Link follows 4 couples that are not really couples as they discover what links them together, and the book, well, the manga also follows them as they learn to, you know, love each other for couples. And I also didn't know going into it that it's LGBTQ. So yeah. Giles is the Sunnydale High librarian, secretly a watcher. Well, for a watcher for Buffy. So a watcher is basically someone that watches over for the Slayer and gives them all the information they need about the demons and the monsters they are facing. However, with Giles, majority of them do not have a close bond with their respective Slayers. But Giles, he's a father figure to Buffy due to her father not really being in the picture. Because her father lives back in LA, whereas Buffy and her mum live in Sunnydale. since Giles is extremely smart, I kind of recommended him books that I think, I don't know, with Giles I found it extremely difficult because I feel like the only books he would read are, you know, information books about demons. So the first book I recommend is Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. So Sherlock Holmes is a self-proclaimed detective. I've forgotten exactly how he describes himself, who solves cases in and around London. However, in For Hound of the Baskervilles, he actually came up to Cornwall. The last and final book I will recommend to Giles and in this whole video is Inca by Conina. This one I'm kind of recommended because it's fantasy and, you know, like demons and stuff. So Inca follows both Maggie and her father Mo, who has the powers of when he reads a book out loud, something from that book will come into this world and something from this world will go into the book. And I think when Maggie was around 6 or something, when she was really young, he read her Inca, and then Maggie's mum went into Inca, and Capricorn, which is Inca's villain, came into this world. And the book just follows good few years later when she's around 12, when they have to return things to normal. All of these books' descriptions were terrible. Also, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was pretty bad, I'm sorry. If you want me to do a part 2, which I assure you will be better, comment that down below.